Morning, everyone. So let's talk childhood books. Growing up, I did read a lot of fiction. I read a lot of Beverly Cleary, Ramona and Beezus. I wish I remembered who wrote Junie B. Jones, because she was. I loved those books. Those were very funny books growing up. Judy Blume with the Fudge books, classic. Encyclopedia Brown. I don't remember who wrote those, but very good. Those were very fun. Um, I read a lot of. I'm just looking at the wall behind me. Oh, those aren't my books anymore. Uh, I read a lot of Pearls Before Swine growing up. Loved those. I read a lot of newspaper comic strips as well. But what really, well, one of the things that is more obvious that I grew up autistic. I'm still autistic. I always will be. But is that I grew up with an interest in the Civil War. Now it's very obvious from my shirt. This is probably the nicest shirt I've ever owned. But one of the things. But yeah, that's what I grew up with is the Civil War, and one of the things that got me into it was the subject of today's video, and that is that today I got in the mail one of my in hindsight it wasn't my favorite growing up, but in hindsight it's one of the best because it's what got me into it. Was one of the factors that got me into the American Civil War in the first place, including the movie Gettysburg. Sorry. And with that in mind, let's have a look at not for the whole book, of course, but let's take a look at Don Troiani's Civil War. Now, this is a book I didn't realize ordering it that I had actually grown up with this. It wasn't until like 10 or so minutes ago when I got the mail that I realized, oh my god, I did grow up with this. So, sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second. Don Troiani is, in my opinion, the best artist of all time. His attention, like you could tell, and I've read his notes on a lot of his paintings. Now, he took so much detail into account. He did so much research on, down to the smallest little thing. There's a very specific painting about Fredericksburg, where he did research into what kind of gray coats, like the winter wear, this specific regiment wore, and it was a gray. They were gray colored. Like little stuff like that, it is so wonderful. Like the realism enhanced, he would use models and stuff as well, like actual people as models. It's impressive. Now there are some accusations that he is of the lost cause variety persuasion, which he has roundly denied. In my opinion, is that I think he's an artist, and he took a lot of commissions to make a lot of paintings. That said, there's a lot of very Confederate-focused ones. There's a lot of Confederate-focused ones. Very specifically, Nathan Bedford Forrest, who I think was just a monster. It should not be a personal opinion, but it is. This kind of thing is an opinion to a lot of people. But I'm getting off topic. The topic at hand here is the book. So let's just have a brief look at the book. But yeah, this is First at Manassas, I believe. No, I'm sorry. It's Up Alabamans. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. Like, look at all. I'm sorry if the lighting's not great. Maybe if I turned off the lamps, I'd be a little bit. Okay, not much, but you see what I mean, though. Like, it's just. Now, I don't think this has all of his paintings, because I remember when I saw other books, I would be like, oh, I never saw this one before. But regardless, like, it's his opinion, I should say, to show both sides of the conflict, and I think that is entirely fair. And you can't exactly express through painting that the South was fighting for slavery. I mean, you probably could. He probably could, honestly. He also has a wonderful collection of military antiques, including like the shoulder boards, maybe the sword. I'm not sure. I know he has the gloves of Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, the man who stop the Confederate advance at the far end of Little Round Top. There's some... It's a popular myth that if he hadn't done it, Gettysburg would have been lost if he had fallen back. That's not true. There was actually a lot of reserves there. But, like, it's just... My terrible camera quality cannot do these justice. And I'm sorry about that. And I wonder... That's a very iconic painting, but kind of lost cause-y in my opinion. Let's skip forward slightly. Where are we? Oh. My phone's... What in God's name is that number? I'm not sure. But this is one of my favorite ones. It's the Irish Brigade at Fredericksburg. They suffered horrible casualties, and I think they're... My own opinions on Fredericksburg, now is not the right time to share them. I think, I will say, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about it, and that the assumption goes around that the whole plan for it was just one giant charge at a fixed position. That's not it. That the Marye's Heights debacle was only part of the plan. It was supposed to be the diversionary assault for the main attack. Now, Burnside's... I said I wouldn't get into it, but I'm going to get into it. Now, Burnside's left-wing commander... Burnside's greatest problem, in my opinion, was that he delegated far too much, because he knew he wasn't able to command large groups of men. And now, the man he designated to his right flank, I want to say, was William B. Franklin, who... I'd have to do more research into this, but apparently he didn't fully commit to it. Now, the only group that broke the Confederate lines was George Meade. Very fitting parallel to Gettysburg there. Now, Franklin did not support him. Reynolds, who was under Franklin, did not support him. So Meade was forced to fall back. Had Franklin fully committed his entire force to that assault, it would have been, in my opinion, a smashing Union victory. But that's not one I recognize. I might have to really go through this. Now we're on to 1863. That's, this is Union Cavalry at Chancellorsville, I want to say. I remember a lot of these paintings by just visual sight alone. I'm going to look at the book alone for a second. Now, where's my boys in green? Come on, you bastards. Of course, this isn't it, but this is, of course, a very iconic painting of Strong Vincent. Of course, that's the 20th Maine, Little Round Top. One of the most iconic scenes from that film, even if the film... I understand it's based on a book, and it's a very direct adaptation of the book. So, whatever. But people misinterpret Little Round Top to be, like, the most pivotal thing, which it was very pivotal, but... The 20th Maine's importance there is slightly exaggerated. What really helped, in my opinion, was that Chamberlain outlived a lot of his contemporaries. Now, this isn't to say he wasn't extremely heroic. He was. He really was. But I feel his regiment got the credit when a lot of other regiments were swept under the rug. That is my opinion. You may agree or disagree with me as you please. That's the Union Artillery. Wonderful tidbit about that is that Henry J. Hunt, the Union Commander-in-Chief, the Chief of the Army of the Potomac's Artillery, he advised Hancock, Winfield Scott Hancock, that is, to let up on the artillery for a while. This was, now what he did during E. Porter Alexander on the Confederate side, when they did their bombardment, we kind of slackened off our artillery to give the impression that our artillery was being wiped out by theirs. Fooled Alexander. Started Pickett's charge. Now, the artillery that we had was reserved until the charge was well underway, and we decimated them. Not as well as we could have, but we still did. This here is the 1st Minnesota. Now, I want you to take a good and long look at this, because these are some of the finest men we ever had. On July 2nd, Hancock sent it was desperation, and it had to be done. The whole rebel force was coming up the Round Tops, and a regiment was needed to stem the tide. The 1st Minnesota was sent in with against 3-1 odds, or 3-1 in numbers, and they did it. 82% casualties. But they held them off long enough. And none of this would have happened, in my opinion, if Sickles hadn't gone. The Union line was set. Sickles moved his men out to a slightly higher elevation of ground. It was horrible. Just a disaster. But the 1st Minnesota held them off long enough. The Rebs off long enough for us to be able to regroup. And I think it's magnificent. Now, we're coming up on Pickett's charge. That's Armistead. There's another one of Armistead. I'm not sure why we needed 2. Surely it has to be in here. I'm not sure what this is. I think that might be just generic. Okay, so this does not have all of his paintings in here, and I was grossly misinformed. When I do the edit, I'm going to add a picture of it around this point, and this here is the 69th Pennsylvania. Now, imagine the Union line is here, here, and here. Wait, never mind. Scratch that. I don't know how that's going to look if I reverse it, because I'm going to have to get it right. Lee's attack, Pickett's charge, broke the line. On the 69th's right was the 71st Pennsylvania. For a little bit, let's back up a bit, say the 69th Pennsylvania was a regiment of nearly all Irish Philadelphians. They were going to be part of the Irish Brigade, but the governor of Pennsylvania refused. So what happened was they ended up in the Philadelphia Brigade. They took the number 69 as an homage to the 69th New York, a very famous Irish regiment that still exists today. Now, the 71st Pennsylvania breaks at the wall. The Confederates are streaming forward. I should point out, even if they'd won Pickett's charge, it would not have changed the battle much. So the 71st Pennsylvania breaks. The 57th New York to our left, I believe, breaks, which leaves... So it's at this part of the angle. Maybe it'll look better, like, if I did this, but here we are. Here's the 69th Pennsylvania. I say we when none of my ancestors were part of it. This is where the 69th Pennsylvania is. The Rebs are coming in. They surround them. And in such a short time span, what happened was the 69th had stocked up enough muskets the day prior, because there was a charge the day before at that location. But they'd stocked up enough muskets to have like almost machine gun-like level of fire. For those days, machine gun-like level of fire. Which caused devastating casualties for one thing. Now, when the rebels broke through on both sides, they held their ground. The 57th New York and 71st Pennsylvania had already fallen back, and they would not go forward again, leaving the 69th on its own, and as the only unit that did not break through that did not fall back from the wall, suffering 55% casualties in a span of like an hour or so. I'm not quite sure how long that actually lasted. Devastating. They were so... Okay, again, this is not as heavy losses as, say, the 1st Minnesota or the Iron Brigade. Sorry. But it was still horrible. And horrible tidbit about the 1st Minnesota, they were in that part. They were sent to the center of the Union line to be relieved. And that's where Pickett's charge was. So they suffered even more casualties. The 69th was so exhausted that they couldn't even collect any Confederate battle flags. They're unique. If you saw in the painting that, I doubt I'd still have it up in the edit, but if you saw it in the painting, their flag is furled. That's because Don Troiani was not He done the research, and there is a fair enough facsimile of what the regimental flag looked like. It was green with an Irish, I believe it was the Pennsylvania State emblem on the one end, like with the two horses and stuff, and on the other end it was like an Irish tower, a wolf, and like a sunburst or something like that. I'm not sure, but no surviving examples of the flag still exist. So he went the safe route and kept the flag furled. So, and that's fine. I think you could have gone with a good enough facsimile, but it is what it is. Okay, we're gonna keep going here. Just breeze through more of our good lads. More Confederate stuff. More Confederate stuff. If you can't tell, this was Cold Harbor. Now, and this has been used by a lot of people to justify the argument that Grant was a butcher. Now, yes, he did have high casualties, but his strategy, in my opinion, stopped the war. Or ended the war as quickly as it possibly could have under the circumstances. There's a whole argument that Lee was such a grand general compared to Grant, but no. Lee had brilliant tactics, and some of his gambles were spectacular, like Chancellorsville. What Lee never understood was the big picture. I should probably just get back to the book. This has been 16 minutes. I could make my own video on this. And maybe I will. Yeah, here's one of the forest ones. I have to find my other Troiani book. It's a shame they don't have the Rock of Aaron in here. That's a damn shame. Mosby. This was Franklin. Wait, yeah, that's Franklin. Called the Gettysburg of the West. Awful battle for the South. It's another instance of the Confederates not understanding that they did not have the level of manpower we did. Which led to offensives that occasionally did very well, but caused horrific casualties. Casualties they couldn't afford to replace. We're nearing the end of the war here. You can tell by how ragged their uniforms are getting. And this is as far as I know, this is the final painting, and yeah, it is. This is the surrender. There's a legend that Chamberlain saluted the Confederates, which would have made a nice scene on film, but that film's never getting made for obvious reasons. But this went on longer than it really needed to. I just wanted to really share one of my favorite childhood books. If you actually saw the whole thing, thanks. But I doubt you have seen it.